You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Are you ready to learn the 3 secrets to launching a successful podcast? Hi, I'm Bill, a recent client of the podcast Mogul. If you've been thinking about starting a podcast but aren't sure where to begin, he's got you covered. He is hosting a free webinar where he will share the 3 secrets that can help you launch, grow, and monetize your podcast without any fancy equipment or technical headaches. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot now and let him help get your podcast off the ground.
Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host with the most, Phil Better, and today we have a guest who's built an impressive career at the intersect of real estate, finance, and entrepreneurship. Our guest is a serial entrepreneur, author, and economist who has made significant strides in the commercial lending and insurance industries. With a deep focus on real estate, he has founded multiple companies that have collectively arranged billions of dollars in finances for investors across the country. His expertise doesn't just stop there. He's also actively involved in property ownership, management, particularly in the Chicagoland area. Beyond his business ventures, our guest is a respected thought leader, contributes regular editorial content to major publications like Bazinga, National Mortgage Professionals, and Multi-Housing News. He's also shared his insights as an expert guest on news programs, including Good Morning Chicago, and was a primary guest on the episode of The Viewpoint with Dennis Quaid. His journey began in New York, followed by a move to Argentina, and eventually to Chicago, where he's continued to build and expand his business empire. With a relentless drive to do better than last year and a philosophy focused on excelling in his choice fields, he has become a leading figure in commercial real estate and finance. Today, we'll dive into his entrepreneurial journey, explore his strategies for success, and learn how he balances his business pursuits with the commitment to personal well-being. So get ready for some insightful conversations packed with valuable takeaways. Please join me in welcome the dynamic Jacob Clopton to the podcast. Jake?
Appreciate it, Phil. Thanks for having me on.
I'm glad to get into this. So, Jake, with the first question, why? Why did you become an entrepreneur? What made you drive you into this world?
Well, I never wanted to work for somebody else, I think that was, the major driver. And corporate kind of culture and that whole thing just didn't really fit my personality. I was kind of had a drive to want to create something for myself. And, that was what I kind of viewed as my own success, being able to create something and operate my own thing and, go from there. So I really think that was my main driver. Also, I didn't want to wear a tie.
I feel you there. I feel you.
I went to always Jesuit high school, and we had to wear ties the whole time, and I was like, never again.
Poisoned you against the tie, and it is restrictive. In your life, did you have people who were entrepreneurs that you could look up to, or were you like one of the first in kind of like the family?
No, I was in my immediate family. I was definitely the first person and still the only person that kind of went off on their own. Everybody else, almost everybody else in my family is in medicine. My dad was a doctor. My stepdad's a doctor. My mother's a nurse. I have, in-laws that are from my other siblings that are doctors. And and everybody else is kind of like a professor in a university type of setting. So very much so went a different way with that one. My father retired as, after a while, and he was really working for himself, and he was trading stocks on his own. He never really created, a company or an organization. It was more, but he was very much so independent, so I think that definitely had, some influence on me. But no, not really anybody in my immediate family. No.
So being that you were the black sheep, if you will, of your family, and deciding to go against the grain of medicine, a very noble profession, but who did you look up to in that regard? Were there any like far off mentors, or were you just like, I want to try this on my own?
No, there wasn't really any one person in particular I can point to. It was more just, I knew that's what I wanted to do. And, like I had a lot of jobs in high school and in college, and it never fit with my personality, it just didn't fit with what I wanted to do in my life. And, I wanted to create something and to have that lifestyle, and to never stop working, but also have more time on my hands. Everybody who's an entrepreneur knows how that feels. So no, I mean, it was just always a natural fit for what it was.
I love that. So when you did venture off onto your own, what was like your first business? What was the thing that got you kind of started, your first success in the business world?
So my first company is still the one that I operate today. Before I did this, for a very long time, what I thought I wanted to do was just be to be a trader, right? So I wanted to trade futures or stocks or something like that. And that's why I moved to Chicago originally. And my first job was working at a trading firm here, and I worked there for several years. And that schedule was 1 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. Because we were trading interest rates, and it was like it's a 23-hour market. And I did that until 2008, and that whole thing just dried up overnight. And I was like, well, here's my opportunity to go try to figure something out on my own. And, the markets that I was trading were kind of banking markets. And my idea, because it was a credit crisis, was to create a business that helps people find credit and find liquidity. So the way I started was I quit that job. Actually, candidly, there was a lot of overlap. But I just started calling anybody I could, banks, debt funds, anybody, just to find people that were lending. And we originally didn't start out as commercial real estate. I just had this idea. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't have a banking background, but I just started calling people, trying to see if they were lending in any sort of way, shape, or form. And at the time, like if you had found somebody that was willing to lend any money at all, you would just kind of put it out there and people would just come to you. And then, over the years, it really fell into commercial real estate being the niche. And, 16 years later, here we are.
And so you're purchasing commercial real estate and renting it out, or are you creating the deals to help people purchase those real estate, build it?
So this kind of goes along with, sort of the future of what we want to do with our company. So since we started, the company has turned into more of like a commercial real estate services firm. So I still run all the finance side stuff, but we're also an insurance company. We're real estate brokerage. We're a 1031 QI. We do commercial solar installation services. And, kind of the next leg of what we wanted to do was to start, like an equity type of fund and direct property ownership and raise money and all this, just the next evolution of what makes sense. So before I was just, I would purchase properties just for my own personal investments, which, we still got a couple of those, but I think over time, we're going to spin all those off and focus more on like a larger kind of like GP equity type of deal and do larger stuff and put the deals together.
So when you're looking at this future of putting deals together and being partnered in these things with funds, what are things you're looking for? Like when you're doing these type of deals, what would you be looking for?
Well, so I'm kind of in the unique position where I have so much insight into like the different parts of the industry, right? Like we have almost every part of the entire services vertical under our umbrella. And also we arrange LP equity for other projects that other people are doing, right? So instead of us, and this is easier, right? This is easier than fitting a square peg in a round hole. Instead of us just going out and then trying to find people to invest, we have insight into the investors already, and we're going to figure out what they want, and then use the other arms of our company to find the deals, insure them, and finance them. So it's, because of who we are and what we do, we have like such insight into, all these different aspects, and, really have all that great position just to be able to put them together for what exactly people are looking for.
Okay, now I see. And with what you're doing, how did you evolve into this domain? Like, because you went from, just doing your personal real estate for commercial, your personal holdings, to becoming a monolith in business, going into the evolve. How did you jump to the next stage after you had your own properties?
Well, so actually the properties came second after the finance stuff.
Sorry, I apologize.
No, yeah. So, I mean, we started really doing like personal investments because it's what I understood, right? Like I had a really hard time investing in things that I have no
idea about
what's going on, right? Like there's not, like I don't invest in a restaurant, right? There's nothing I could ever do to help. I mean, I could go there and eat, right? But like, you know what I mean?
You can just suggest, this is a great place to eat. I own it, but
yeah,
besides the point.
If it's not doing well, I'm never going to be able to show up there and help out, right? It's just not, like I have my lane. I'm not trying to run every race. And so like after we really felt comfortable buying property, honestly, after years. I think the first property I bought was in 2014, and we started this company, before 2010.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go into creating those deals, because a lot of people like doing the financing, because that was the first bit of the business before you felt comfortable buying those properties. If someone's coming from, let's say, the banking world or the kind of like the trading world, setting up a business like this, is it more time, or is it more cash flow to be in this type of business when you're first starting off? Because that's where most people are probably going to start. They're not going to go buying commercial real estate if they don't understand the market. Like you said, it's better to understand the financing part, understanding that, where you can get the investors. So is it spending time trying to find those investors, or are you spending money trying to find those investors?
Yeah, so I usually see people come usually from like one of three avenues.
Okay.
From what I've seen, either they started working for some commercial real estate company out of college, and then they did that for a long time and learned the business that way. Basically working for another company. They came from a family background where the family's been in, commercial real estate for a long time, and they got that exposure from there. Or, they started out really small. And, we're buying houses, and then bought 4 flats, and then went from 4 flats to, 10 units, 20 units, and just kept kind of building up that way organically. That's usually how I see people get into our business. I mean, there are definitely some ex-bankers I've seen that have, made that transition, into being a sponsor, being, an owner. Not as many as you think, not an enormous amount. But, I think it fit really well for me because, owning property is a business, right? Like I hate when people say it's like armchair, and that is that's not how it works. Kind of like flying an airplane, right? I mean, as long as everything's going cool, the autopilot works, but eventually,
you have to land it and take it off, right?
Yeah. I mean, you got to be able to know how to fly it when somebody throws drops a cigarette on a mattress and it burns one of your units to the ground, right? Which is going to happen eventually. So that's usually how I see people, have kind of gotten into our field. And like the deals and the way that things get put together is in commercial real estate very much so driven by, like private equity. right? And like, because there's so much, investor equity that comes into the field from, private equity firms, and whatever they're chasing and whatever there's equity money coming to the market for, those are the types of deals that people, and, that I end up seeing like going off all the time. As a great example, one thing that I'm doing a lot of right now, which I probably wouldn't expect to be doing this like 4 years ago, is we're doing an enormous amount of car wash development, because private equity funds are really into car washes right now. The whole subscription-based tunnel wash thing. And I'm sure you've probably seen this near you. They're just going up on every corner.
Yeah.
And it's because there's so much private equity money that's flowing into them. Like 4 years ago, it was storage, right? And then, so like they'll keep, private equity kind of flows into whatever it can, has figured out how to underwrite well, and they're getting good margins from. And that's the latest thing. And, a couple of years from now, like eventually that'll be saturated and it'll be something else. So that's what I think is like the major driver for a lot of the deals I see.
I'm interested in like maybe a little success story of yours, since you've done, you arrange billions of dollars in financing for a diverse range of clients. Is there any success story where your expertise in structuring the deal made a significant impact on your client's real estate investment?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we arrange, the smallest loan we arrange is a couple $1 million. So everything has a pretty significant impact. But I would point to one particular deal that we did, where I am pretty sure what I was able to put together changed the guy's life. He had gotten some land under contract, just by chance, on a very long dated contract, got it rezoned. The value of the land went up to, I don't know, let's say it was like $3-4 million or something like that. I was able to get him a development loan for, an industrial building. I believe it was like $14 million or something like that. He was able to complete the building, get it up and finished, and sell it. For probably, I don't know, almost twice as much as that loan was. And I think he had $140,000 in the entire deal.
Jeez.
So that's a pretty big life-changing experience.
Yeah, that's retired in the Maldives. That's retired in the Maldives.
I think I talked to, I don't even know, 200 different lenders on that. And, listen, in our industry, just like in any industry, there's definitely a lot of consideration for like cost basis, how much skin in the game somebody has it, and yada, yada. And like to the guys, tested me, he did a phenomenal job. And some of it was luck, some of it was timing. A lot of it was like hard work. But, I found the right lender that, was just willing to do the deal, and we structured the right way. And, turned that 140 into what, like 10 million?
Yeah, at least.
So that I would, and I'll be honest with you, I've got other stories that are similar to that, but that's definitely the most ridiculous one.
Yeah, that is insanity.
And that's why I was like, why am I not doing these myself? Yeah.
Well, that is the goal, right? That is the goal for you to go. I want to jump to the future, about 10 years down the road. I always like looking to the future because I plan on having my guest come back, right? Maybe not 10 years, hopefully in like 2 years.
Hopefully my green will be working by then.
Yes, but it's still great. Makes me still pop, Jake. But in 10 years, where do you want to be? Because you do have a focus on your personal well-being. And obviously, when you start doing these bigger deals where you're involved in the purchasing side of stuff and you're getting financed, where do you see yourself dealing with life at that point?
Like personal life or business? Or
like nearly the same thing. Like, don't have to go super personal, but where do you want to be? Do you want to be in the trenches still in 10 years, or do you want to be kind of a more relaxed version, looking at a different part of the empire that you're running?
Well, I mean, I don't ever want to not be involved. But the biggest goal that I have over the next, however many years is to bring on more people and to, I guess, leverage those relationships and those types. I mean, before when I first started, I was averse, I guess, to, relying on like other people. And, I kept the company small. I was like, all right, I'm lean and nimble, I don't want to like rely on other people. And, I think it was a lot of like control issue or something like that. But to grow and to get bigger and to be able to do more, you've got to let that go, and you've got to learn how to, leverage other people, right? And have employees and this and the other. And because the only way I was able to bring on these other, service arms was because of that, right? So we've started that to a degree, but what I really want to do is build out, big verticals in those different areas. So I think I think a lot of people that start businesses, have challenges with that, like letting go of control, letting other people, kind of run with it, and, more delegating a lot of the business to other people. But that's the old, and I've been doing this for a really long time, and it's not like this happened overnight, but that's just what I've come to realize is the only way to grow and get ahead, because I can only do so much. I mean, I do a lot, but there's an end to the well, right? I mean, it's got a bottom, and if that's the only way to grow. So if I had one goal, that's the main one over the next 5-10 years, is to grow the organization, and to get more people involved in the different areas, and all working towards the same goal. And you give away part of the pie, but the pie gets a lot larger. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love that. I love that. You can give away a bit of the pie, but it gets larger and larger. So
yeah.
It's good. And you want to get those people in place that know more than you, know their lane better than you do. So,
I'm definitely not the smartest person in most rooms. So, so I definitely, rely on other people's intelligence, and, absolutely. That's the thing. Like, I don't, anybody I bring on, I would want them to be, smarter than I am. So.
That's great. Great advice for everybody who's listening. Understand like you said, you want to stay in your lane previously, and, be what you're expert at and do what you're the best at. Speaking of that, by staying in your lane and being the best at what you do, how do you invest in yourself to do that? Because it takes a lot of investment in yourself to be the best at what you do. So how do you go about doing that? How do you invest in yourself?
I mean, the only way is kind of learning it from other people. I mean, you could read, and don't get me wrong, I read a lot, right? But like, you could read every book on earth, and you're not going to be as knowledgeable as some in like any particular business, in the way it works, is somebody who just takes nonstop calls and has the conversations and goes out there and networks, and like, especially in our industry too. I mean, it's so relationship driven, right? So, I mean, I think what really allowed me to get ahead, quickly, and continue to like be relevant and continue to get ahead in the industry is, never not taking a call. I think we've all been there, right? And be like, I don't know if this is really worth it, but like, you don't really know what's going to come out of it, right? Or like not take a meeting, stuff like that. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I've not taking some calls, but like,
there's some that might not be the best.
I was about to say, there's somebody listening that's like, you never call me. But I mean, I think that's just the most important thing, right? Is you got to make the phone calls, you got to make the cold calls, you got to talk to people, you got to make new relationships. I mean, even now, over 16 years, I'm still learning about finance products and what's out there. And one of the main reasons why is it's constantly changing, right? Like, every industry is constantly changing now. The rate of change is just getting faster. And there's so much out there that, in every industry that you just don't know about. And so like, I spend a lot of my day, just talking to, different parts and different participants in the industry, just trying to understand, like, what do you do? How do you fit in? Is this something new? Like, how can I leverage that? And I swear to God, every single time I learn something new or get a new finance program, and I'm like, oh, well, I've never, it's never really come up before. The next phone call will be somebody being like, hey, yeah, like that is asking for me for that. So that's why, man, like I really try to pack my day full of phone calls and try to meet as many new participants as possible every day.
I like that. And plus you're getting a diverse range of points of view on maybe some of the similar things that you know, and that allows you to go down different avenues.
Yeah, and like one of the best parts about my industry is like everybody in real estate has an entrepreneurial mindset, right? I mean, that's the goal, right? I mean, you want to work for yourself, you want to build a company, build a portfolio, and everybody has a different way of looking at it. I mean, I've literally talked to and heard about 10,000 different strategies, right? And everybody's got a different way to slice a pie, but and a lot of them are really interesting. That's why like talking to everybody is so important.
Yeah. It's very important. It's one of the joys of this podcast because I get to talk to so many different entrepreneurs like yourself, and it gives me an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? You should go check out Jake because he's doing fantastic things over in the real estate world. If you're interested in that, or one of my other previous guests, if they're interested in that. But if someone's listening right now and they want to jump straight into real estate, just the broad, we'll go with the whole area. We're not going to go specifically into commercial, but just the whole area because they're somewhat similar, right? They both have the risks. What would you suggest that they do to maybe hedge some of the obvious risks that you see first timers fall into?
I think there's certain strategies that people should really stay away from and also like be cognizant of. Like the BRRR method, build, whatever it is, refinance, take as much money out, all this stuff. Just be very careful of debt and understand it. Because you can leverage and get great returns, but sometimes property values go down too. as we've seen, and there's a Facebook group for that BRRRR method, and I mean it can be like a house of pain now. Like when things are going up, everybody's happy and making tons of money, but like right now it's kind of rough. So I would say like in real estate is very much so driven by leverage and debt. I mean you can do it without it if you have a ton of money. Right. But if you want those types of returns, you've got to learn it. And you've got to really understand it. And knowing, really understanding those products and the risk that's associated with them. I think it's probably one of the first places I would start. I mean, I've just seen so many people that kind of get into it and don't really fully understand, like the different, leverage points. And a lot of people that are getting into it, want as high a leverage as humanly possible, which is basically, hey, I'm going to do my first deal. Let me make this as risky as humanly possible. You know what I mean? So, I would say that's probably one of the first points I would really focus on. And the other side is, really recognizing that, real estate is not, I hate to call it even an investment. It's an operating business, and treat your tenants, even if it's multifamily or whatever, as your customers. And I think when you, position your mindset that way, it kind of sets you up for success and really understanding what you're dealing with, because you're not going to buy this thing and just forget about it. You can do that with stocks. So you can't do that with, real estate because, like I said, eventually somebody's going to burn their mattress to the ground and you have to deal with that.
I feel that was something you may have dealt with a few more times in your life, twice. My God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can just see whenever someone's in the bedroom lighting a candles, you're like, please, careful.
Yeah. I'm like, just don't smoke in bed. Come on.
Yeah, no, that's like, I didn't think I would have to hear something common sense, but I can feel your pain for that.
I'd never be shocked by people's lack of common sense.
I say common sense is the least common thing out, least common sense there is. You're not coming close to the end here, Jake, and I want to ask you because you had I don't want to say long, but you have a tenured experience in life as an entrepreneur. I want to bring your 10-year-old self back because I'm pretty sure your 10-year-old self wasn't seeing you as Jake, founder of Clopton Capital, what advice would you like to give back to your 10-year-old self to help them on their journey towards where you are today?
It's a good question. So I probably the same advice I'd give my 10-year-old that I have today. So I have a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 5-year-old, right?
Perfect.
And I kind of I kind of have like a set of rules that I had put together for them. And some of those are like, things about like personal things, and other those are like, kind of like business and like personal development mindset things. And there's two of them, right, that kind of really stand out. The first one is like, look at failure differently and don't be afraid to fail, right? And I like to use like gym analogies. Like, and I tell my kids, listen, the first time you go in the weight room, you're not picking up 110 pounds, right? I mean, you're gonna try to move up in weight, and like, you're not gonna be able to do it the first time, right? So, but eventually, your body gets better and you learn from it, and you will get there eventually. And then once you kind of get over that milestone, you don't ever have to go back. And it's kind of similar in business too, right? Like, I failed so many times. Like,
Yes.
so many times, right? In trying to get clients, do deals, this, that, the other. But like each time, I look back and learn from that. And when you look at it, like each one of those experiences as like a learning experience, almost like an asset, it's like, all right, well, I'm not going to do that again. And so, but now I know like 20 ways not to do it. Eventually, you kind of build this hallway around, and you can walk down that hallway, and all the times you screwed up are on either side on the guardrails, and you figure it out, and then you've got the right way to do it. The other thing another one that sticks out in my mind that is like for personal development is, really understanding that like not everybody has to like you. I try to tell them that a lot of times too. It's like, listen, it's okay if not everybody in your classroom likes you. That's never going to happen, right? And you can spend so much, mental power trying to, make sure that everybody likes you. But especially if you go off on your own and you're an entrepreneur and you start getting successful, there's just going to be a lot of people that, just don't like you, and because of that, or, they want to see you fail for whatever reason. They wanted to do it jealousy. It doesn't matter why, right? I think that's also something to really, that once you get comfortable with, it also gives you focus to, like have the right mindset to be an entrepreneur, to go out on your own. So those would be two big ones.
Those are great pieces of advice, especially the second one. A lot of people need to remember that what other people say shouldn't matter to you, as long as you're comfortable with who you are.
Exactly. And you get a lot of times people get so influenced by other people that really have no idea what they're talking about.
Exactly. If you're not going to take criticism from them, why would you take advice as well? Or if you weren't going to take advice from them, why would you take criticism from them? It's another piece of advice that a former guest said, but I think yours is more poignant into kindness. I'm going to jump off stage here, Jake. I want you to let my audience know where they can find you, where they can follow you, maybe even see if there's something they can do. Maybe they have a piece of land that they're looking to get commercialized, and maybe you can help them out and get that amazing return like you did for that client earlier in the show. So the floor is yours, sir.
I would love that. I'm exceptionally easy to find. It's Jacob Clopton on LinkedIn or whatever social media. Our website is cloptoncapital.com. I'm always around, and like I said, I usually take every call. So, happy to chat about any deal.
Amazing. Jake, I want to thank you so much for being here. It was an amazing opportunity to talk to you about your journey, and the advice you dropped is amazing. So I'm going to enjoy reading back everything once we get this transcribed. So thank you again for being on the show.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
To my audience, make sure you check out the show notes down below to stay connected with Jake and see how he can help you in the future if you have some nice real estate holdings. I thank you so much for listening, and always remember to invest in yourself.
Thanks for tuning in. Now it's time to take the next step. When you're ready to dive deeper into how to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast, Phil's got something special for you. Join him for a free webinar where he'll reveal the 3 secrets that have helped countless entrepreneurs succeed in podcasting. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot, and let's turn your podcasting dreams into reality.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.